So Adam and Eve, in their sin, could not come back and eat of the tree of life and thus live forever with evil in their life, thus being unredeemable. So God put that mercy there so that there could be a way for us to come back into his presence. When we experience our cave experience, our dark times, when we need to find hope and light and help. First of all, begin with prayer. If you're newer to church, you might say, I knew they'd come around to that. How simple is that? Pastor, can't you get something better than that? Well, no, can't get better than that. Begin with prayer. Notice how he starts. 2 times he cries for mercy. Desperate cry for mercy. Be gracious to me, have mercy on me, O God. The word here in the Hebrew is Hanan, and it has the idea of someone who has authority and those who are under their authority to come under them and say, show me favor, have mercy upon me. And he's asking this, interestingly, when it's in the imperative sense, it's a cry of desperation. And both of these prayers, have mercy, are in the imperative sense. I am desperate. I beg your favor, my master. It shows the kind of the emotional intensity that David is inviting you into. The angst that he has over where he is at and what he thinks he has been promised. And he comes, interestingly enough, this is why I bring this up and begin with prayer. He begins humbling himself in complete desperation, recognizing that only God and his intervention could deliver or save him. In essence, he comes before God and he says, I got nothing to offer. And why I say begin with prayer is sometimes we don't always begin that way. We begin with, dear Lord, here I am, and I praise you, Father, and thank you for all the good things you've done, and I'm in a bad place, and I think if you did this for me, that would be helpful. I just need a little push to get over the top. And David comes with none of that. There's absolutely nothing I have to offer here. He probably didn't have hardly any possessions with him whatsoever. I have nothing. And I understand that's not how I always pray, and I'm guessing that's not how you always pray either. Then he recognizes how God is actively pursuing him now. And he says, be my refuge. After he pleads for mercy, he says, for in you I take refuge. And then this next beautiful little phrase, in the shadow of your wings. Mercy here is synonymous with God acting in protective manner over David's life. He is not confused. Physically, you could say, he took refuge in a cave. He's safe for now from Gath. He's safe from Saul. Saul doesn't know where he's at. David never confuses the issue. The issue is not that he's physically safe in the cave. He needs God as his refuge. For in you, under your wings, I find my protection. Now, this in the psalm is the first of a series of I wills that we're going to see. All of them are what we would call in our English imperfect tense, meaning it's a resolution for the future. I will take, I don't feel it now, I'm in the cave, but I am going to stay under the shadow of your wings. There are 2 wonderful images here. The first image is one that's well known to the Hebrew world and to our farm world as well, to the bird world, that when any kind of rushing storm comes or a predator comes, chickens and other birds spread their wings for their young to come under. Now, you might think that's not a lot of protection, but that's the vision throughout the Old Testament even that God gives of himself, that he protects that way. It's just a natural protection. How many of you like the whole wing craze, the buffalo wing craze and everything? There's hardly nobody that likes that. I know you don't want to raise your hands right now, but I love those things. But when the server brings them to me, I don't sit there and go, wow, look at the pipes on those wings. Man, that must have been some chicken. What protection under those wings. It's amazing how effective those chickens are in protecting their young. Throughout the Old Testament, God refers to himself as that kind of protector with that image. He also uses the image of eagles as well. As a matter of fact, after he had led the people out of Egypt in bondage 400 years, leads them out of Egypt, no mistake, it wasn't Moses that led them out, it was God who led them out. He says this in Exodus 19. God's reminding Israel of what he has done. I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. This image of protection under the shadow of wings is used throughout the Old Testament and is carried on into the New Testament as well. And I want to do a little study on this because we miss this, because we kind of gloss over this. That's why it's 57 is not your favorite, but will be. And other Psalms have this image in it as well, some very popular ones as well. For everyday Israelites, this metaphor physically would have been seen in the temple, in the architecture of the temple, the greater image here. So this idea of being in the shadow of the wings referred to the wings of God in the temple, in the Holy of Holies. So you have the outer court, the holy place, and then the most holy place. If you'll remember, when the veil was rent, it was in the holy place. So once a year, a priest could go into the holy place to bring atonement, to bring a redemption and forgiveness of sins temporarily to the people of Israel. And so there would be bells on his garments, and they would put a rope around his ankle, and he would go into the most holy place, to the very presence of God, where God's local physical presence during that time could be felt and understood. And as long as the bell was ringing, everything was going well. But if he had not purified himself properly and the bell stopped ringing, they would pull him out. And that would be it. It's not a good thing. You can't come into to God in an impure way. So this would have been part of the image that David would have understood when he said, I'm coming under the shadow of your wings. So listen to how this started. Exodus chapter 25. Understand, David knew this, why he prayed this. Exodus 25, God is directing Moses on how to build a tabernacle and how to worship him and how to come into his presence. When he comes to this place of furniture in the most holy place, he says, first, and we're not going to read that, you're going to make a box out of wood, the ark, and in that ark, one of the things you're going to put in there are three things, but one of the things you're going to put in there is my handwriting, my law that I give to you, so that you're to follow to make you distinct among the nations. The second thing, that furniture that you're going to build, is a covering for that ark. We oftentimes call that the mercy seat, but the Hebrew says it's the cover. And listen to what Moses writes here in Exodus chapter 25. God says, make an atonement cover of pure gold and make 2 cherubim out of the hammered gold at the ends of the cover. Make 1 cherub on one end and the second cherub on the other. Make the cherubim of one piece with the cover at the 2 ends. So what we have is the piece of furniture, the ark, and on that's the second piece of furniture, the cover. That cover is out of pure gold, and it's all of one piece, and out of that covering will come 2 cherubim, short for cherub. And notice what he goes on to say. The cherubim are to have their wings spread upward. So have a cherubim here on one side of the ark. Wings are upward like this, with the other cherubim over here, upward like this. Listen to what he tells Moses. The cherubim are to face each other, looking down at the cover. The cherubim are to have their wings spread upward, overshadowing the cover with them. The cherubim are to face each other, looking towards the cover. So their bodies are facing, and they look down to the cover. That's the place of meeting. That's the place of God's presence. This box. This place where we meet our invisible, immortal, holy God. He says that's the place. And now listen what it says. Place the cover on top of the ark and put the ark, the tablets of the covenant law that I will give you, there above the cover right here between these cherubim, above the cover, between the two cherubim that are over the ark of the covenant law, I will meet with you and give you all my commands for the Israelites. That's where you meet with me, in that place. That's where I reveal myself and show you how I'm going to be with you as a people of God. Now, we often think, because of our Valentine mindset, we have little cherubs, don't we? They're little fat little angels with little wings, and they hover around with their little arrows, These are not the cherubim of the Bible. That's where we get cherub from. We have the seraphim that are in God's presence that cover him. And then the cherubim are God's warriors. And whenever they show up, the first thing they usually say is, do not be afraid. You remember these angels showed up to Joseph and Mary in the incarnation story. And the first thing they always say, because they are fabulously warriors and they scare the liver out of you, and they say, don't be afraid. Got a message from God, but don't be afraid. These are the angels that do God's work. These were the same angels that when Adam and Eve sinned in the garden and got cast out of the garden, two cherubim were placed at the entrance of the garden. So Adam and Eve, in their sin, could not come back and eat of the tree of life and thus live forever with evil in their life, thus being unredeemable. So God put that mercy there so that there could be a way for us to come back into his presence. And this is what he's showing Moses here.